So the first one, breath, sound and movement. That's really obvious. The more we breathe, the more sound we make, movement, energy starts releasing through the body. So when we're giving somebody a session, we're releasing energy through the fascia. We're letting the oxygen move. We're letting energy move through the nervous system. We're just using these somatic practices. Breath, sound, movement, more energy is going to move. The heart's beating faster, the blood's pumping more energy is physically moving. So what is happening in the physical body is reflected in the energetic body. So it's good to have those basic movements. And between breath, sound, and movement, when we're using de-armoring, it can be breath, sound, and the pressing, the pain that we'll learn later in the week. So the next one is transforming pain into pleasure. That's the process of going through de-armoring, of going into our pain, finding physical pain in the body, and as we feel physical pain, energy is created. We created it, and now as we release and it transforms into pleasure, pleasure vibrates differently and we feel like we've got more energy in our body. Whether we actually have more energy in our body or not is debatable, because depression and anger and sadness and grief is just a denser energy. So it's heavier, so we don't really experience it, we feel blocked. But when we transform that energy to a lighter, a higher vibration, then energy's flowing and we feel more spaciousness. We want to keep really looking at this work in a way that it's very hard for science to define it, to measure the frequency and the vibration of emotions as we experience them. That's a good thing. So transforming pain into pleasure, pleasure into pain if you want to, either of those ways is going to increase the energy in the body. The next one is sexual energy. A lot of people have suppressed sexual energy. If you're in a marriage that isn't working for you, or if you're in love with somebody else, if you have a lot of fantasies that you can't express, if you've just got married and then your wife doesn't want to sleep with you for the next 3 years, then you've probably got a lot of suppressed sexual energy in your lower chakras. And in a session, when you can support somebody to release this, working tantrically through their own body, a lot of energy can move. If you don't have any suppressed sexual energy, that's not really where you're going to be working with that person. It might be more on the intention level, it might be more with the mind. There's lots of different ways we can work. But trapped sexual energy gets stored in our body, and if we can release it, it really moves through. Releasing Kundalini energy is, again, it's a spiritual store of energy. It's similar to sexual energy in the way that it's stored in our body and we can release it, but it's very different. So breath, sound and movement is one, transforming pain into pleasure, working with sexual energy, cutting cords. When you've got, like, you're corded to somebody or you've got an entity in your body, the moment you can forgive someone and you stop being angry at them, you can kind of take all that power back into your body, and forgiveness gives you huge amounts of energy. Letting go of people, cutting them out of your field who's kind of letting toxic people go or cording into your system creates a lot of energy in your body. If you do actually have something living in your womb or your thyroid gland and you've got negative, like addictive behaviors because there is a thought form or an entity or one of these negative behaviors in your body, what we learn to do later in the training is to remove these, and then as we remove them, huge amounts of energy comes back into the body. You get your life back, your depression's gone, you're not addicted anymore, you stop smoking. So cutting cords and removing entities would be the fourth one. The fifth one, we don't recommend you do it. It's not a good idea. It's just something to be aware of. It's definitely not what we're learning to do in this training, but it's having a victim. It's having somebody to drain their energy from them and to pull all the energy out of somebody's body. Now, you might see this occasionally happens in breathwork circles, Shaktipat, plant medicine, these kind of states where 40 people get together, they all lay in a room, so many people are going into bliss and heightened states of awareness, and there's this one person in the room that doesn't really say anything, and they have a terrible experience, and then they leave in a psychosis, or they've had their solar plexus ripped out of them, or after they leave the training, they're being attacked by entities for the next 6 months, and they're going into severe health problems. So the online course, a lot of people who contact me are that kind of person who went into those spaces and was having a very negative experience. I don't think it happens very often. Often, I think sometimes it is unconscious, but occasionally there are people in the world who are just assholes, who just think that they should take and steal energy from other people and practice dark chi and go into spaces with negative emotions. Same if you're taking plant medicine, like the medicine's not bad, it's the vibration in your body sometimes. If that's your karma, then maybe it's going to be a very negative experience, and then suddenly you're that victim from an unknown place. I've had clients who have gone to ayahuasca ceremonies and then they feel like they've had their solar plexus ripped out, had a major psychosis and been in hospital for years, months afterwards. And then the process of this work is rebuilding their solar plexus. And there was one guy in the Bali training when I was giving this explanation that if you go into one of these circles and you surrender, but you have an entity in your body, or you have a lot of just like a victim mentality, you don't feel good enough, you want to be abused, then that's the program that you're running. And then you get what you want. So then you open yourself up to being a victim and to being abused. Now, there's nothing wrong with having playful, kinky sex, but when that's like that thought is predominant in somebody's mind and they go into these spaces and they lay down and surrender, you're really just allowing somebody to take your solar plexus out of your body. And there's dark practices of activating other people's, handling their energetic body by taking the solar plexus out of somebody and putting it into somebody else. And then, wow, they're having ecstatic bliss and this person is just energetically knackered for the next few years of their life. And that's a really evil thing to do, and we're not suggesting that you do that. But doing this training is teaching you how to protect yourself from those places. So now you can go, after this training, you can go into any breathwork circle, Shaktipat, plant medicine, and you just know how to contain your energetic body. You're going to know when it feels like somebody's pulling your solar plexus away and that you can put it back. And the good news is, in doing this training, like, it can't actually be taken away, it's just been drained of chi, it's just been drained of prana. So when we learn to increase the energy in the body, and then we learn to run energy between the different polarities through our energetic body, we can rebuild the solar plexus, we can rebuild the heart, we can rebuild the communication in the throat. So we can rebuild all of these energetic centers by increasing the chi and the prana in the body, then running it tantrically with polarity. So when people come to you because of psychosis, because of burnout, these things, these are also the tools to help them. So I don't think it happens very often. It's just good to be aware of, and it's good to just notice your own beliefs and when you're running those mentalities, and that if you're in a space and somebody else is, to maybe make them aware of it and then not let them receive their wish, because it's a bit nasty. And then the sixth one is creating alignment, is when we have alignment between our heart, our mind, our sex. We have an intention and we can say yes to our intention, yes in our sex, yes in our heart, yes in our mind. When we have an intention and we have 3 yeses for it, then we can surrender to the intention. And when we can surrender to the intention and what we want, then energy can move through us. And then the moment we can align our heart, our mind, our sex, and there's no resistance into our body, this is when we kind of go into this 5th dimensional state where life's magical because we have alignment. You walk down the street, every traffic light turns green. You think that I want a hat of this color. You walk into the shop, there it is. You think of your friend, they appear in front of you in a shop. When you're in that 5th dimensional reality and you're like, wow, life's magical, it's all an illusion, wow, amazing. Then all these people go and live in Tulum and Bali and try to be in the same space so they can keep that going on. Now, 5th dimensional reality is great until you become too ungrounded. So your mind still needs to justify everything. Polarity is very important, otherwise our whole reality just falls to pieces. So when you go too far into living in your illusion and then it starts to turn into a dream, then no, you're back in like 3D, 4D reality. There's right and there's wrong, and then every action, now there's pain, now I can't move, every good thing I do, something bad happens. So then we're back in this negative polarity. So then we need to learn to make our polarity healthy, and then find alignment between our heart, mind, and our sex, and then we can go back into this heightened 5th dimensional consciousness. Now, if we're always doing that, but we're not looking after, we're not using the law of attraction to create a beautiful world, we're not doing it to help other people, we're inherently selfish, then our higher self's eventually going to stop showing up for us in that way. Then we're working with darker energies and negative energies to sustain these heightened states of consciousness. So it's very important when you're going into these states not just to act in a selfish way. And if you do have the luxury of living in a fifth dimensional state where everything that you think happens, then just use that to make life better for other people so that we create a reality that we want to reincarnate back into. One version of Tantra and or my understanding, the definition of Tantra and what we're learning is to make the illusion a beautiful place. If we go through a monastic path of spirituality, this is to have no desire or to transcend all desire and to dissolve back into God. So you have to be a renunciate. You can't have sex anymore. You have to not have food and party and drink and do things. You have to be completely devout. Whereas if you're of a tantric path, then you're allowed to follow your pleasure. You're allowed to follow your bliss. So you're creating a heightened state of awareness. You're going into this fifth dimensional state to make the world a beautiful place, something that you want to be reincarnated back into. So when we're working tantrically, we're trying to transform our reality. We're using the energy and the power to create a beautiful illusion instead of trying to escape the illusion. So if the illusion is no longer suffering, and we make an illusion that we're not suffering and it's not painful and it's not hell and I don't want to be born anymore and why is everybody so cruel, if we actually make life nice, then that would be a real spiritual training, is now try and transcend the life that you like. Now try and get over all of your desires and transcend the illusion if you enjoy it. And that's the way we're learning to work. I'll just slow down now because I don't even know if I'm making sense to myself. So, if I have an intention, 3 yeses: heart, mind, and sex. So when you have an intention, yes, yes, and yes, and then energy will flow through your body. So when you're setting intentions, if your intention is basically, I want to be more accepting and forgiving and kind and generous, then the mind's like, yeah, I want to be accepting, it's good to be kind, I really need to forgive. Your heart's in it, your mind's in it, your sex doesn't care. It's like, oh, it's not fun. It's not fun, I don't get any self-gratification, how's that going to help me? Don't like it, no. So really, when we're working with intention, sometimes it's good to have multiple intentions, ones that we can actually get our sexuality in. So just saying, I want more pleasure in my body. I want to have more bliss, I want to have a heightened, I want to attract something that is selfish and selfless at the same time will get your lower chakras involved, your earthy sense of being. And when we're just trying to be altruistic and pure, often we're cut off from this. And then we're cut off from our power. Spirituality is just actually something in the mind. Somebody told me these virtues, they gave me 10 commandments, I should live in a certain way. Yeah, okay, maybe my heart's in it, maybe I have devotion, but really the animal in you, it doesn't want it. It wants something else, and then it'll go and be more destructive and do pain. So including the shadow into your intention is often a really positive thing. But the positivity in the intention should always outweigh the negative. And when we're working with intention, we can work with negative intentions to express my rage, to be more selfish. Sometimes it's good to work with the shadow because we need to integrate those aspects into ourselves, but they should always be balanced with things that are higher up. And when we go into intention through the polarity framework, we'll go deeper into those subjects, but in the essence of this course, working with polarity, learning to understand paradoxes, the whole essence of the course is in that example right there, if you can see it. When we have yes, yes, and yes, we can transcend duality, we can transcend polarity and have this heightened state. And when we don't have alignment between these three different dimensions, then we're in this negative state of polarity. And when we make the polarities in our body healthy, when we make our darkness healthy, no resistance to our desire, then we can go back into these heightened states.